I wanted to share with you a couple of things about Iowa. First of all, I love this part of the country. I came up to this part of the country back in northwest Missouri in 1989. There was a small school back then named Tarkio College. It was the only place in America that would allow me to play football for their college. So I came, and I don't know if you know this, but I was going to play in the National Football League had it not been for my lack of size, speed, and talent. I would have done so. But anyway, I came up here, and so I remember people telling me, you know, it gets really cold in the Midwest and in northwest Missouri. And I said, I know. I've been to 50-degree weather. I know what cold is. So I'll never forget one morning I woke up, it was 70 degrees, the weather was, I said, you know, there's a storm coming in, temperature's going to drop, you have your cold weather gear? I said, I sure do. My cold weather gear, being from Miami, it was basically sweatpants and a windbreaker. Well, literally overnight I went to sleep, I woke up in the morning, I looked outside and there was snow like to my waist. And so I took a shower like I normally did, and I went outside with my hair wet, my hair froze. And then my lips started to crack, and so anyway, I learned my lessons. I've got my tracksuit. And so then, a few months ago, I was supposed to be here about 9 weeks ago. We were coming over from Nevada, and then our plane had to make an emergency landing in Albuquerque, New Mexico. As it turns, so I was in New Mexico yesterday, and I thanked New Mexico for saving my life. But anyway, we finally made it back, and I'm glad to be here because your state's going to play a pivotal role, not just in this election, but in many other elections, including some of the important congressional races that you have. I know Congressman King is on the ballot. He needs to be re-elected. And I hope you guys will do everything you can. We've got some important issues on the ballot as well, some important judicial races. We encourage you to get involved in those. But I'm here today to talk to you about the important race of the presidency and the role that the state is going to play. Now, we know this state kind of plays an important role every 4 years. You probably don't know that, but we do every 4 years. You help us select the nominee in both parties, and we thank you for that, the role that you traditionally played. But this year, you're going to play an important role in the general election as well. And I don't know of any other state in the country whose people more fundamentally understand the threat that this national debt poses to our country than folks in Iowa. Our national debt cannot be overstated. It is $15 trillion. It is the size of our economy. Oftentimes when I talk to people about the debt, they'll ask me, well, the debt is bad, I understand why it's bad, but what does that have to do with my job? What does that have to do with the economy? And here's what it has to do with your job and the economy. Number one, the way businesses are created is when someone takes money that they have access to and they use it to open up a new business. The money has to come from somewhere. And so every penny that's going into government debt is a penny that's not available for investment in the private sector. The other thing about the debt is that it scares people about investing in our future. When you have a country that has a $15 trillion debt and growing, with no plan in place to turn it around, people are afraid to invest because they know that that money is going to have to be paid back in the future. Why do people invest money in business? Because they want to make a profit. They want to make a return on their investment. But if they think that a country is destined for catastrophic tax rates in the future, they don't invest the money in that country. And that's where we're headed under this president. So the fundamental reason why it's so important that Mitt Romney win this election is, number one, he understands the free enterprise system. That whole thing about how businesses get started, that's common sense to you and me. But we have a president that doesn't believe that. He doesn't fundamentally understand that the way jobs and prosperity are created is when someone who has access to money, instead of leaving it in the bank or under their mattress somewhere, invests it in a new business and creates jobs for other people. So that's the first reason why we need a new president. And the other reason why we... That's right. You mean the government didn't build this hangar? Anyway, the other reason is because we have a president that has no plans for the future. Now, just yesterday, he finally released some pamphlet. It was a glossy pamphlet of ideas. Well, it's the same ideas from before. They are the ideas that have always failed everywhere they've ever been tried. They are the ideas of countries that people come here to get away from. His agenda is an agenda that's never worked. It's an agenda of big government domination of your economy. Well, the government has a role to play. We understand that. But when government goes beyond its role, it creates more problems than it solves. And so we desperately need to get back to a president and to a government that understands its proper role in our economy. There's only one person running for president that does. Now, why does that matter? the big scheme of things, it matters for three different reasons. Number one is because we have the opportunity. We have the opportunity to make the 21st century the most prosperous time in American history. As hard as that is to believe, the promise of the 21st century is real. Extraordinary innovations in American energy mean that all of a sudden, American manufacturing is on the verge of returning to America. Manufacturing is on the verge of returning to America. We are on the verge of a renaissance for American manufacturing. After years of losing these jobs overseas because of labor costs, the lowering of the cost of energy in America through an all-of-the-above strategy means that suddenly the ability to build things in America is cost-effective again, and doing so with the most productive workers in the world, here in America. The second reason why it matters is because the world is a safer and a better place when America is the strongest country in the world, both militarily and economically. American strength, pay no attention to that sound, the sucking sound of the government plane, here to distract you from our message. They do that to me at all our events. The second reason why it matters is because the world is a better place when America is the strongest country in the world. It's a safer place. I was startled the other night to hear the President of the United States compare the United States Navy to a bayonet or a horse. As if somehow naval power is an antiquated idea of the last century. Well, there's a reason why China is investing a bunch of money in anti-ship missiles. There's a reason why China is trying to build an aircraft carrier. It's because they understand that whoever controls the seas controls the commerce. And what American naval power has meant for the last 100 years is that the seas have been open for everyone to freely trade and become prosperous. But last but not least, I'll tell you why this matters. Because America is the exception, not the rule. When people say America is exceptional, let me tell you what that means. That means that for almost the entire history of the world, everyone was poor and everyone was powerless. And everyone had really loud planes behind them. For almost all the history of the world, everyone was poor and everyone was powerless. It was the same people over and over again who were successful. That started changing 200 years ago on this continent, when some extraordinary men wrote on a piece of paper that turned out to be the Declaration of Independence, that all of us have certain rights that we get from our God, not from our government. And that principle led to a system of economics. A system of economics which tells us, the American free enterprise system, which tells us that all of us should have the opportunity to go as far as our talent and our work will take us. And the result is the most prosperous nation in human history. The broadest and the greatest middle class that has ever existed. This is the exception, not the rule. This is not what the human condition has been like. This makes us different and better than the rest of the world. I think we're leaving. I guess they didn't like the speech. That's all right. Anyway.